us now move on to situation number 2. Real estate sales for the sector are increasing in parallel. However, the purchase cost is also important for those who are willing to buy a real estate, such as house. In the acquisition of a house, factors such as number of convenience stores, location, distance to main transportation such as MRT station, and age of the house are taken into consideration. The aim of the article is to conduct research on factors affecting real estate values by data mining. In the study, the most important variables to determine the value of the real estate have been investigated by data mining methods. The research has been carried out in Karabakh, and the variables determined according to the opinions of real estate experts. Within the framework of the study, the variables that have the most impact on the unit price have been determined. So the question that must be answered upon accomplishing this statistical test is this. Which among the factors, age of the house, distance to the nearest MRT station, number of convenience stores, latitude and longitude, are significant predictors of the house price per unit area? Upon analyzing the situation, we can now determine what statistical test to use. So with that, we can say we must use linear regression. The reason as to why we must use linear regression is because based on my analysis, the statistical test must be used because it allows us to determine the factors that significantly contribute to the correlation between the dependent and independent variables. Given what is being asked, we are tasked to determine which factors serve as significant predictors of house price per unit area. Aside from that, there is a presence of 2 or more independent variables as we can see from the situation. The dependent variable is the house unit per area, while there are multiple independent variables, specifically the number of convenience stores, location, longitude and latitude, distance to main transportation such as the MRT station, and the age of the house. Our goal is to identify the factors that significantly contribute to the house price per unit area, which we will find upon accomplishing this in Microsoft Excel. So with that being said, let us now perform the statistical test on MS Excel. Upon determining what statistical test to use, which is linear regression, we can now accomplish this in Microsoft Excel. So we go to Data, once again, then we go to Data Analysis, and then we click Regression. So for the input Y range, this is for the dependent variable, which is the ones I highlighted in green. Therefore, the house price of the unit area. So let's get this and Command-Shift down. There we go. And then for the input X range, we select all of those I highlighted in yellow because these are the independent variables, so house age onwards, then Command-Shift down. Then afterwards, we check labels and then confidence level to 95%. And then we just select their output range, like where we want to put it. I'm going to put this here for easier access. And there we go. These are the values we were able to generate through the regression statistical test. So before we start to interpret the values, let us divide these into 3. The first table is our model summary. The second one is our ANOVA table, while the third one is our table of coefficients. So first, we have the model summary. This includes the multiple R, R square, and adjusted R square. So let's start with the multiple R. The first one is the multiple R. This basically represents the multiple correlation coefficient. This is a measure of the quality prediction of the dependent variables. We can say that it is at a high level of prediction considering the value, which is 0.75322 or simply 0.75. Next, we have the R square, which is the coefficient determination. This is another word to call the R square, coefficient of determination. This presents the proportion of the variance in the dependent variables that can be explained by the independent variables. So given the value, which is 0.56735, we can interpret this such that 56.74 of the house prices is due to the independent variables. Let's move on to the adjusted R square. This is basically what we pertain to when it overcomes the issue of the R squared. This gives us a more accurate value. So given the value, which is 0.56205, we can interpret this such that 56.21% of the changes in house price is because of the independent variables in this scenario. Now, we can interpret our second one, which is the ANOVA table. So, as you can tell from the values of the table, we can say that it is indeed a good fit for the data. Why? The F ratio in the ANOVA table tests whether the overall regression model is a good fit for the data. So, this can be tested in such a way that F and the values enclosed in the parentheses, aka the degrees of freedom in the regression, and the residual row are 5 and 408. This is equal to 107.0063, which is the F value. So now that we are done interpreting the first two tables, let us now move on to the third one, which is the coefficient table above, which provides us with the information which among the independent variables have a significant relationship to the dependent variable, which is the house price per unit area. So in this table, we look at the p-value column, which is that one. Next, if ever you notice the sudden change in values from a while ago, specifically there, this is because I made use the comma button, which is located in the Home tab. It looks like that. This was in order to simplify the values, since previously it was written in very small numbers or specifically in scientific notation. So with that being said, the four variables with 0.00, specifically house age, distance to the nearest MRT station, number of inconvenience stores, and latitude are evidently lesser than 0.05. So given that, we turn to the rule of thumb, which states that these variables have a significant relationship. If the p-value is less than 0.05, then there's a significant relationship. Otherwise, there's no significant relationship as said there in the rule of thumb. Thus, we can conclude that the independent variables house age, distance to nearest MRT station, number of convenience stores, and latitude have a p-value which is less than 0.05. Therefore, they have a significant relationship to the dependent variable, which is the house price of unit area, while the rest do not. Now that we were able to analyze the data as well as perform the statistical test, we can now analyze the data which was generated from the table. In the efforts of answering the question, we will form a conclusion. So here's what we were able to formulate. Multiple linear regression was utilized in order to determine which among the independent variables, specifically age of the house, distance of the nearest MRT station, number of convenience stores, latitude, and longitude are factors that significantly affect the house prices per unit area. So in Table 1, it indicates that there is a high level of prediction of the house price per unit area given that R is equal to 0.75. Thus, the 9-predictor model was also able to account for 56% of the variance in the house price per unit area. Next, for the F ratio, we have F parenthesis 5408, which we were able to get here in Table 2 for regression and residual rows for the degrees of freedom. This is equal to 107.0063 as we can see from the F column. Then, for Table 3, this presents the house age, distance to the nearest MRT station, number of convenience stores, and latitude because they have a significant effect with the house price per unit given the fact that their p-value is less than 0.05 as we can see there since they're all 0.00 which is evidently less than 0.05. The rest, longitude, which has a value of 0.77, shows no significant effect to the house price per unit area since it is greater than 0.05. Now we can answer the question here. Which among the factors, age of the house, distance to the nearest MRT station, number of convenience stores, latitude, and longitude are the significant predictors of the house price per unit area? So given the data we were able to discuss, we can formulate an answer here. The factors that serve as significant predictors of the house price per unit area are the house age, distance to the nearest MRT station, number of convenience stores, and latitude are the significant predictors, considering the fact that they have a significant effect at the house price per unit area since they have a p-value less than 0.05.